Hello, and today we'll continue with chapter 2 of Nerus. So we know what Obli looks like now. We got to learn about Samel, the god that created Earth and humanity. And we got to see Nok, the god, one of the seven, and we also got to see, we already saw Samel only in chapter 2, when Obli spoke to him, but we actually got to know more about him now. But we got to learn more about him in the previous video, and his past, how he was created, and his reasoning for creating the Earth. So, if you want to see that, you can go to the previous video and see what Not said about him. So I'm gonna go ahead and do some extras first. According to the year 2000 AD to Julian calendar, two major catastrophes hit planet Earth in the span of 200 years. I have already documented what I know about said events in the Battle of the Aeon entry. Please refer to that for more information. This entry is to document the effects that battles had on Earth. The most obvious after effect that one could notice without pulling out two maps were the twin glowing moons. The abuse of descendant portal maps that destroyed a large portion of the continents that used to be called Europe and America, Asia, resulted in the creation of the second moon. Additionally, both moons were imbued with large magic, causing them to cast a blue glow on everything at night. It is to be noted one of the moons suffered severe damage, having gotten sliced right in half. I speculate this was the handiwork of either the Aeons or Nerus. Other notable effects include the destruction of all electrical technology near the solar system, the spontaneous combustion of fossil fuels, a few volcanic eruptions, and a sudden change of the planet's atmosphere, which led to a nearly complete ecological collapse, ceasing to exist, and more territory being submerged underwater as the ice cap suddenly melted. At this point, the Archons revealed themselves and worked at full capacity to make what little remained of the planet habitable. Society was rebuilt on the Archon world, which, alongside the new geographical limitations, brought some changes. Most countries stopped existing and consolidated into alliances that ruled a designated territory with relatively open borders. For instance, the remaining population of America was united under the flag of Nova America, although they eventually split into North and South factions due to cultural differences. In the same vein, Europe united under a single government, and so on. Of course, this was all just to bring some comfort to humans, since the real rulers were still their new deities. The churches were established both to help rebuild the world and for the Archons to intervene in human matters without strong armor their way in. Apparently, it was too intimidating if they stepped in themselves, but sending someone else as a mouthpiece made it all right. Do this next time. So I'm gonna go ahead and continue with chapter 2. Alois got up from bed early that morning. He had dreamed about the strange descendant and being on the road with some unknown people. They talked so loudly that it had caused him to wake up. It had been unable to fall back asleep. Dawn had already broken and the church was open, but most of the monks were still in bed. Alois was making his way to the cells when he saw something peculiar out of the corner of his eye. He caught some movement by the church's entrance in a flash of blue. It couldn't be a monk. It wasn't the state of their habits. He walked into the building just in time to catch the door into the nave closing. Alois thought about calling out, but his instincts advised him against it. Cautiously, he opened the door and entered the nave. His eyes became heavy. A yellow light penetrated into the building through a tall stained glass window, blinding him. Underneath it was a high altar, adorned with statues overlooking 4 pairs of pews laid in front of them. How strange, this didn't look right at all. There was a sound of a wooden door opening, and from behind the altar emerged an old nun with messy strands of white hair over her eyes. She gasped, surprised to see the monk. "Oh, come to pray already?" "No, but I suppose I might as well, since I'm already here. I do wonder if Knock would even mind if I skipped my morning prayers. He will probably maybe pay for it at night." "Yes, I apologize that I scared you." "Don't worry." The nun invited Alois to come closer. They kneeled side by side on a pew, closed their eyes, and prayed. As he did so, the monk felt as if the woman next to him was watching him. Once he finished, he looked at her to check, but she was concentrating on her prayers, not moving a little bit. Perhaps out of the lethargy that invaded him when he entered the nave, Alois stared at her, so the woman noticed it when she finished. "Is something bothering you, my dear?" "There is, right. I got a good eye for these things." She gave him a welcoming smile. The monk showed no reaction, but he did feel like he could use some outside advice. His human side was unsure how to deal with the feelings afflicting him. Would it be best to relinquish control to the beast? And so he sought guidance. Half his friends has been troubled by this one problem. Lately, I've been thinking I want to help him. It must be a complicated problem if it's bothering you. Yes, and he is. How can I say it? Alois rested his forehead on his hands as he measured his next words. However, the prying lady interrupted him. "Is he a close friend?" That didn't begin to describe it. Alois wasn't sure he'd even call Knock his lover. The notion didn't cross his mind, but his affection for him was special nonetheless. He made him feel like he had a place in the world. Alois used to wonder if there was a reason he didn't process emotions the same way as other people in that he sympathized more with the tragic fates of monsters and the glorious heroes, or rather with their loneliness. Was it too conceited to think it was all to meet someone like Knock? Yes, but there's something he's been trying to accomplish for a long, long time. I'm afraid he might lose part of himself in the process. And I think he might be ultimately unhappy while he's doing so. What would happen to Knock once his mission was complete and his world in ruins? Would his human heart be destroyed? Would it slowly fade away once he returns to the void? Would Alois even get to see him again? This was a story the monk had read so many times he never imagined he'd find himself in it, let alone this way. He didn't want Knock to change, which meant he didn't want the world to change. The old woman nodded solemnly. "So you don't know if to support him or tell him to stop, correct?" "Correct. Tell me, do you think your friend is doing good? That the result will be worth what potential harm might befall him?" "I sympathize with his cause, but I can't say I can justify it, no. Still, I don't believe I could get him to stop if I tried." "Are you certain? You said this is troubling him, yes? Perhaps all he needs is someone to present him with an alternative, a way out." Alois wasn't convinced it would be that simple, but it would be worth a try. All he needed was to think of the correct way to frame this alternative. The guy would not outright give up his duty. The thousands of years he had dedicated towards it were proof of that. Aloy stayed the woman and left for the South. As he was drawing himself, the strangeness of it all started dawning on him. The nave was so much smaller than it actually was, it didn't look right. It had dizziness. And as the church had just opened, he would have found a lady in charge of doing that inside, instead of that other old woman. He hurried up and getting dressed to return to the church, only to find the doors closed and the servant lady unlocking them. Nothing added up. Alois concluded it was a dream he had confused for reality. Regardless, that Onward encounter had given him an idea how to proceed. Not touched his fishing cord, and upon the slightest sign of resistance pulled it back from the water. He caught a very round fish, its body almost completely covered in human eyes. The guy let out a triumphant cackle before stuffing a dangling creature in front of Aloysius' face. This is a good one. Do not eat the fish itself. Its taste is foul. The eyes are the good part. And look at this. Not gazed one of the creature's eyes. Aloysius suspected at least some blood or a similar kind of substance to come out, but instead another eye quickly regrew, filling the empty socket. Not casually bunts on the eye, letting out a satisfied grunt. Care to try it? Thank you. The monk took what remained of the eye and ate it. It was crunchier than expected and tasted like marshmallows. This would make for a decent afternoon snack. What do you think? What will you name it? It looks a bit tense. Eagle-eyed as usual, dear Alois. Yes, this creature's body inflates and its eyes open in response to stress. It reminds me of a blowfish. Alois' gaze was drawn to three sages standing further down the riverbank. One was very small, the other tall and lanky, and the third reminded him of a vowel, except larger. The three were having a conversation, but the monk didn't understand their garbled speech. In a flash of inspiration, Nog took out three eyes from the fish and tossed them into their direction. One of the eyes got stuck in the sorcerer's sage's hook. They could only imagine its expression when it reeled the eye out of the water, but the way it jumped and threw it away made it clear it suffered quite a scare. As for its name, eyefish is a bit obvious. How about nearsighted fish? Since it reacts to stress, presumably it won't open its eyes until something gets close, correct? Satisfying enough, although it would be more fitting if it could squint. Nog's hand fades through the fish, and suddenly it weeps. And suddenly each of its eyes started squinting. After letting Alois admire his handiwork, he released it back to the stream. They had been doing this little exercise of fishing strange creatures and having Alois named them for a while now. The monk found it very entertaining, but he was starting to feel tired, and there was still a topic he wished to discuss, so he proposed they stop for the night. Changing topics, I've been thinking about your duty, Nog. You have been thinking about it quite often, dear Alois. Yes, well, what else can I do in the face of such revelation? But I want to know your opinion, my lord. What do you think Samel wants? After a brief pause, Nog dropped his fishing rod and placed a hand on Alois' cheek, looking him in the eye. What do we have here? Is it concerned that I detect? Speak up. Alois told Nog about what had been in his mind lately regarding his mission and the possibility Nog would change after completing it. By the end of it, the god sighed and pulled the monk into a hug, that long tail wrapping around his legs as well. Alois started realizing just how tired he was. You're right, Alois. I can feel humanity pulsing through me when I think of the fate that awaits you, and that feeling would fade with time were I to return to the void. But, my dear Alois, I have good news. Beings like you and I, We can have anything we want. All you need to do is make it happen. We are not bound by the laws of men. If you want me to stay as I am, then just make it so. Make it so? All you need to do is ensure that the plan to free Samel does not succeed, correct? When put like that, it did sound simple. Doc's operation seemed vast and intimidating, but that was only because it was such a risky endeavor that they had to take many precautions to proceed. Poking holes in such precarious hole wouldn't prove difficult, and it would be enough to sink the ship. Aloysius just needed to do so before he arrived at his destination. How fortunate for you that we don't know when Nomina will react. Will enact the plan, you will have plenty of time. Indeed, I'll give this idea some thought, my lord. Now grabbed Aloys by the shoulder and lit his forehead. You are smart. Good boy, dear Aloys. I am certain you will reach a satisfying conclusion. Problem. How to stop the destruction of Samel's world. Solution number 1. Have not cancel operation. Refusal. Assuming not did this, Naruto still holds the other half of the gatekeepers, the human group, and enacted the operation leadership, attempting to persuade him to stop it out of the question. Solution number 2. Have not made the abbeys interfere. Refusal. Due to protocol, the abbey's descendant must be present during communication between the abbot and his deity. Not revealing what he knows might put him in a vulnerable position, and this course of action would invite descendant intervention, which could escalate to another cataclysm level conflict with the state centers. While the objective would technically be fulfilled, Aloys would rather preserve Earth as it currently is. Solution number 3. Have Aloys inform the abbots about it. Refusal. The abbots are already aware that gatekeepers have groups dedicated to hurting them. They don't see the need for further action. Moreover, even if Aloys told them all the details about their plan, the abbots might distrust him. His life could be put in jeopardy. Solution number 4. Hunt the gatekeepers. Refusal. There are many members constantly on the move across the globe. With Noct being unable to leave the island without drawing the descendants' attention, and Aloys being unprepared for such a mission, this course of action is unviable at the time. Solution number 5. Destroy the remaining teleporter. Refusal. Only a handful of descendants can handle the teleporters safely. Many years were spent researching and preparing to repair and use a teleporter, but how to disarm it completely is an enigma. The residual energy still in it could lead to another cataclysm level scenario if not handled properly. Solution number 6. The abbots seem to be the only ones with the power and in the right position to solve the problem. The issue is their lack of action. However, this is the case because of the position of the people. If they could be replaced by actors that are more proactive and are trusting of Aloys, they could be a solution. Once the abbots are old, could they retire soon? Refusal. A new abbot takes over only upon the death of the last one. Moreover, only the successors for Noct and Temp's churches have been selected so far. Even if all the abbots are replaced by the gatekeepers to complete their operation, doesn't guarantee a consensus that further action is needed against them. Aloys' proposal isn't wicked, involves a successor interested in further action against the gatekeepers. The lack of successors is a problem. Why not consolidate power in him by having him succeed and follow the disposal of the unnecessary abbots? They are all old men and meet at one of the main abbeys once a year, making them easier targets than the gatekeepers. The only obstacle would be the abbey's security. When Obi finished reading through the handwritten papers, he looked up to the two men across the lightless fire inside. You two are made one for the other, aren't you? But well, I can't say I feel bad for the abbots. I confess I wasn't convinced when Noct said we should show you this. You're with the gatekeepers, no? I expected another reaction. I don't think this plan will change anything, even if it succeeds. Such are the rules of this world. So if you insist on going through with this, then I won't stop you. What opposes me is what Nock wants from me. In the face of me being unable to leave this island, I want to ask you to protect Aloys once he enacts his plan. You don't need to be complicit in performing the killing. Just see that no harm befalls him. Owen's eyes became bitter as he fell back to the papers in his hands. He whispered something to himself and nodded. Very well, I can promise you as much. I assume this means that you won't be carrying out these crimes here, then. They had left only one other location where Aloys could carry out the murders. Aloys and Nock were sitting on the couch of some dark abbey study. Nock had one arm wrapped around the monk's shoulders as his antenna illuminated the books Aloys was reading for him. The story revolved around some romance plot between a werewolf and a human. It integrated some inaccuracies about wolf packs that betrayed that it had been written before the cataclysm. Aloys must have found it in the archives and gone through the trouble of restoring it for physical use. It wasn't what the God would call a prime example of what human literature could be like, but he respected what the monk knew what he liked. They were taking a break from reading when Nock asked a question. Have you spoken with the abbot, dear Aloys? The monk perked up. Yes, but the preparations are complete. Starting next year, I will move to Smith's church. What a shame that our encounters must be cut short so soon. And for 4 years. It is not much time, but the time we have spent together is even shorter. I wasn't counting on you becoming greeted, my lord. Rest assured I have already made arrangements to visit every once in a while. The god pulled Aloys closer and began nibbling his nape. First you make me hungry, and then you deprive me of my sustenance. I see, Aloys, you seek to increase my craving. Not exactly, but if that makes you happy, you're free to think it's the case, my lord. What a naughty, conceited monk you have grown into. I know I shall fill you with real eggs before you leave. You shall give birth to my offspring, so that you may raise it alone. As if he had read that thought, and a fit of irritation knocked through his weight on the monk and began wrestling him. It was a shameful one-sided match which ended with the god lying on top of his monk, rubbing up against his hair. Aloys was having some trouble breathing, but not being so affectionate pleased Aloys. The feeling was mutual. He also would miss their nightly adventures greatly. Once he had enough, Nock helped Aloys sit straight. I believe it is time you receive a gift. Nock brought his finger to Aloys' throat, and at the tip of it materialized a large black gem. The darkness it reflected was so deep that it seemed like it was devouring all light that came into contact with it. A wolf-shaped emblem grew around it, silver chains sprouting from on top of it and closing into a loop around the monk's neck. Aloys took the chain and watched the emblem dangle. Oh, is it alright for me to have this, my lord? Of course, you deserve it. It will also allow us to talk and interact a little, no matter where you are. Nothing physical, but it is a means of communication nonetheless. I don't know what to say, my lord. There were still much about the Voidborns that Aloys didn't know, such as that they knew of more effective, less ambiguous means of communication than words. That reminds me that I have not been using this as much as you deserve. The monk was just raising his eyes from the pendant when Nock snuck one hand under his habit. Nock started phasing into his body, causing Aloys to open his eyes wide as the necklace slipped from his fingers. A rush of excitement ran through his body. What is this? In the void, all of us men together like this. It is our primary method of communication, but your body is not used to it, so it is overwhelming, no? Does it feel good? Alois was too busy being in a daze to respond. The boner poking from under his pants was a satisfactory enough answer, however. Nock leaned closer and sank his second hand into his body. It is a saying you are wearing this human visage, for it is not resistant enough to survive complete overlap. But this comes with advantages. I could change your form in any way I wanted, alter your bodily functions, your perception, even your memory. As I mentioned, humans are very flexible. Suddenly, a mischievous look crept its way into the god's eyes. On second thought, if the overlap was brief. Now threw himself on top of the monk again, only this time Alois sank nearly completely into his body. He then jumped away, leaving his panting worshiper spread on the couch. It worked. You never cease to impress, my lord. Now, shall we get back to reading? Alois and Obi were guided by the custody Abby's ascendant to their new cell. As they unpacked their belongings, Alois pondered over his next step. Although Nock's monks had the freedom to transfer the Metz Church main abbey, they weren't allowed in any other place outside Nock's church domain, barring a few exceptions. Alois' first reason to pick Metz Abbey over Nock's had been that it would let him commit his crime sooner. They were gathered here in 4 years by now, with the 6 for Nock's Abbey. But after the idea came out, Nock missed a few other unique advantages that Alois could obtain here if he played his cards right. Alois was the son of a dynasty that used to have a hold on Fire's church, unlike the Alvaro's family with Nock's church. At least until most of his family was murdered in some squabble between the abbots. The interesting part of this was that one of Alois' surviving relatives still worked for Smith's church as part of security. He was also in charge of coaching those that aspired to become vampires or werewolves, since he belonged to the first group himself. Alois would sign up to train under him to know him better and determine if he could be useful. And because he wanted to become a werewolf, of course. Pick up the pace, fatty. Why are you so red on the face? If you can't handle this, then you won't ever be able to transform. You hear me? You'll fucking die if you try. Remigio continued shouting at Alois as he ran up the hill to the abbey. The monk was already tired from running down, hungry from skipping supper, and sweaty enough his habit was sticking to his skin. He had to remove his mask to stop the sweat from pooling around his eyes. Once they reached the abbey, the vampire had him run down again, but Alois collapsed midway through. At night before bed, Alois would hide under his blankets and close his eyes as he clutched his pendant. He would have vivid visions of Nock, identical to a dream if not for him still being awake. Who would have thought turning into a werewolf would be such a torturous process? The god cackled as he leaned against one of the nearby pillars. Still, I can't complain about getting in shape. I suppose it might help with the task at hand and one of Remigio. He's very strict, but as of late he's been hurling less abuse at me. I believe he uses that bad temper of his to filter out monks he doesn't consider to be dedicated enough. Do you believe he will fold and become more approachable if you prove to him how persistent you are? You can be so optimistic, Alois. Alois would start every day with exercise at a large meal. It became challenging having to juggle his werewolf training with him learning art so he could be useful at the scriptorium. He also missed coffee dearly. It was a good thing that he was getting used to life as med church. It would be difficult to plan out a murder in a location he was unfamiliar with. He had also started looking into plant bugs in his free time. Some of the herbs in the infirmary could prove useful if he learned more about them. Eventually, Alois was able to survive a full afternoon of remedial training, which earned him praise from the vampire for the first time. But the monk wouldn't have the breakthrough he was looking for until around a year after he started his training. Remigio and Alois sat down on the grass after wandering some laps between the town and the abbey. The monk continued to make full use of that moment of respite. The vampire's expression looked tired as usual, his weighed down by his 200 years of life. But he had an especially deep frown that day. You've improved a lot since you arrived, but you're still sporting that belly. Are you eating exactly how I instructed you to? I'm sorry, Master, but my appetite often gets the best of me. In actuality, Alois was hesitant to lose weight because Nog had a liking for praising his chubby disposition. Well, I guess it doesn't matter too much as long as you don't clog your arteries. You are never mind. The gears in Alois' mind start turning. Like, what do you think of sewing, Master? The vampire grimaced, but upon meeting the monk's eyes, his expression softened. Old dusty memories about my family. I never stopped to think about it, but with you being so old, just say it how it is. I outlived most of them. The training to become a vampire is different. If you can't come to terms with outliving all the people you love, then you won't make it. It's that simple. It's just that you reminded me of my nephew just now. He never managed to lose weight, no matter how much I nagged him about it. Did you have children of your own? Nah, that never interested me. But despite his words, Remigio's face had turned even more somber. So how is your family nowadays, Master? The vampire glared at him. Enough about me. What about you? I don't know anything about you. Come to think of it. Is that a monk thing? I don't have much of a family to speak of. Someone murdered and set our house on fire when we were kids. Oh. Remigio pursed his lips, thinking he should change the topic, but Alois continued. I remember having a brother that both of us made it out of there alive, but I don't know what became of him after. He was just a baby when it happened. I believe the lady that found us and sent me to the orphanage adopted him because of that. Maybe I should ask Nog about that later. I keep forgetting to. And separated you in the process. What an ass. I don't resent it. Raising one child is already hard enough, let alone two. This is fucking weird. Excuse me? Nothing. Say, how old are you again? 23 years old, Master. The vampire frowned, his expression growing tenser by the moment. He wasn't angry at the monk, but at himself for entertaining such a convenient fantasy. However, Alois spoke, his voice steady. To tell you the truth, Master, I already knew who you were before I arrived here. Don't get me wrong, I really wanted to become a werewolf, but I also wanted to get to know you. Then, around 20 years ago, my father was at Abba Church, yes? You knew him well, didn't you? Remigio's lips twisted into a wide smile, and he burst out laughing. He tore the grass between his fingers and smashed against the soil, time and time again. Bitterness and hope, everything mixed, came gushing out like poison from his throat. Now all Alois needed was to direct it to the right place. This has to be a joke. Why, after so many years did you? Because I needed help. What? Alois looked down at the grass, putting up a slight frown. Back then I was just a child, so I didn't understand what happened, and I don't know what they must have said about it. I imagine the news went far when Abbott died and all. Yes, but all that the newspaper said was that it was an accident. I had to dig, ask around for more details, and they only conceded because I was a relative. It was an accident. That day, my father was going to meet with these hunters. Alois recalled the facts as Nog had described them to him. Back then, his father had taken the entire family on a trip through the countryside. Although he was meant to travel alone to inspect a few hunter outposts, he had taken the whole family with him, and so Alois the work he'd be performing in the future. The assassins, not knowing that the rest of the family was with him, was the only reason Alois' brother had made it out alive, although their mother wasn't so lucky. Alois' father was expecting a group of hunters that night, but who arrived instead were assassins in disguise. After killing him, they set the house on fire and Alois escaped with his brother into the wilderness. The hunters would find him later and sell Alois to the orphanage whilst he adopted his baby brother. The rest of the story wouldn't pluck Remigio's headstrings the right way, so Alois embellished the facts. The memories of that night tormented him since, but despite this, he came out on top, and after Alvaro saw his potential, he was recruited as a monk with Nog's church. Although things were looking up for him, he still wanted to know the truth behind his family's demise. One day he had a flash of inspiration. Who would know the truth but the Lord of Darkness, who dwells in everything that has to do with secrets and that which is forgotten. And so, Alois snuck out of the church into the hollow mountain where he met Nog. The god listened to his story and pleaded for the truth, which Nog then provided. Outraged at the injustices a worshipper of his and fire had to suffer, and at the hands of the humans meant to guide them, no less, Nog offered the monk a chance to right the wrongs of the past. He gave him information on the average habits and weaknesses and told him where to locate a surviving relative and his only potential ally. It's been hard living with this. Until recently, I didn't understand the truth, but that night I heard those men speak, and I realized they were after my father. Out of fear, I hid my identity, let the orphanage give me a new name, and have lived always looking over my shoulder. It feels like I can never trust anyone. It's so difficult to even make friends. Except because, according to the story he and Oba had agreed on, they were supposed to have become friends sometime before moving to the Abbey. Frank is the only one I feel I can open up to. Alright, enough. The vampire shook his head. This really is a joke. All this time I've been racking my brains trying to figure out the truth behind that fire. If I was being paranoid, or if they were hiding something. And then you come around, my long-lost great southern nephew, and tell me not only I was right to suspect him, but that you want revenge. I must be losing my fucking mind finally. I'm afraid this is very real. You know better than anyone how much they took away from us. Yet they get to live in peace, drowning in blessings. It just isn't right. Please, Master, Uncle, I need your help. Remigio pounded the dirt as laughter took over him again. Alois couldn't understand it, but he wasn't fazed nonetheless. Without moving an inch, he waited until the vampire poured everything out. Remigio must have thought about this encounter in the past, imagined all the possible ways it could go. And at some point he must have lost faith in it. To think that forgotten hope would be rewarded in the most terrifying of ways. About 2 years later, Alois completed his werewolf training and went on one of his visits to Knott's church with the pretext of helping with a project that had caught his eye while exchanging letters. Traveling between Mataragi Island and Howler Mountain every few months made evident how different the sea was between those zones. In Howler Mountain, the stench of death and the flavor of salt would stick to someone far more insistently. In a place characterized by lack, this interested Alois. Did it have something to do with Knott's presence? Perhaps the void was a bit like the sea, although the god had used that word to describe Samel's world in the past. Could it be that this was the surface of the ocean, while the void was a bottomless pit beyond where the light reached it. Then maybe the aeons lived in the sky, watching everything below was gone. Although Lois was meant to assist with a research project upon arrival, his old friends ended up dragging him away for a drink and to discuss his new werewolf form. They soon enchanted by it, which for once made Aloy generally happy of having their attention. Oba had gone off to attend to some projects of his own. He wouldn't reappear until it was time to return to his cell. Naturally, Aloy went ahead and snuck into Hollow Mountain that same night. Its anticipated reunion with Nock went as usual, with the guy having planned a date only to succumb to his impulses and partake in a holy ritual worship. By now I was well acquainted with these two degeneracies. I could have made a bingo card out of everything I'd seen. I didn't need more, so I often averted my eyes, peeking every once in a while to see if they were done. Nothing important would probably happen until after Nock got everything out of the system. But this time something had piqued my curiosity. My eyes were drawn to the scene nevertheless, motivated by a perverse curiosity. What should I do? No, I decided against it. I tuned out for the moment. I would wait until they arranged time to meet with Obley in a few nights. Obley, Nock, and Aloy sat around the campfire, eating some snacks the Senate had taken the trouble to prepare. There wasn't much left to say. With her being in contact thanks to Nock's necklace, he was up to date with everything the monks had been up to. This reunion was less of a tactical meeting and more of a little bonding exercise. Still, Nock did have some news for them. How are your plans progressing? The Abbots are meeting at Smith's Church the next year, yes? Nemezio and I have come up with a couple of plans. I think we'll select the most versatile one and keep a couple of backups in case things spiral out of control. I'll try to let Brandis live, but not without ruining his career. That way his successor won't be able to take over immediately. Those documents you mentioned each of the Abbots keep will be very useful for that. Giorgio has a successor too now. Remember, so he might be a good target as well. We'll see. I took a moment to eat a dog-shaped cookie. I must say, I wonder if your intervention wasn't predetermined by our lords. Obley looked up from his food to God. Navajo's planning for the gatekeepers to make their move about a month after you make yours. Suddenly your time frame is very tight. What are the details? We will transport the key to Plata around that time. Navajo has already configured it, so he just needs to finish repairs and activate the teleporter. I assume that safe center that's always following well around will be there too. Well, that's the canine plus human, yes? Well, that doesn't change much for me, I imagine, but I thought I'd let you know. Now threw a lizard-shaped cookie into his mouth and munch. He had monopolized a bag of animal-shaped cookies. Lloyd stared at the flickering fire. Nock, how do you feel about Lois? Is it not technically betrayal? Oh, you children of Samel with your paranoia. You Voidborn do not sabotage. We tried our best and made the spoils go to the victor. But aren't you breaking your promise? Not at all. My promise is to bring Samel home, yes? This will happen regardless of if the gatekeeper is a sea or not. Darkness is eternal, this world will flicker out in time. The smell being freed is but an inevitability. The point of contention is the time we know. But if a void burns the smell, time is frivolous. No matter how deep, how lasting, and eternal beings' wounds might be, there is always a chance to mend them. Now glance at Alois. It's only you who have existed for so little to whom time matters, especially for mortals. I suppose you're right, but even if... Never mind. Do you want a sandwich? It was a wonderful night. Despite the topic of conversation, Alois was feeling content with eating alongside other people for the first time. Back in the orphanage, he would hear this was what eating with a fairy was like. The monk never caught himself interested in the thought, but he had to admit it was nice. Both humans and monsters need company, it would seem, and family. Perhaps the difference between them was what they defined as such. Even among humans, this was still a debate topic. There were still many definitions circulating, but many decided to discard them and create their own. Perhaps that would be a good time, that would be a good thing to imitate. And so he basked in a warmth of those dear to him for as long as it could last. Finalizing playback. Initializing playback. I've been thinking about my mother lately, about how she changed after the rest of our family vanished. I don't remember her that well by now, but in retrospect I realized she probably wasn't very happy with Dad. When both of them were home, David would always try to keep me away for as much as he could, seeing Dad slept in different rooms ready together. We never ate together, but she was always kind to me and tried to force a smile, so I thought she was happy. I think the first time I ever saw her being happy was after everyone vanished. A family suddenly being broken like that is sad, but she seemed so relieved, like a weight had been lifted off her shoulders. I think this might be the same story here. I think something else happens after this place. This is a story I've seen a couple of times, although never this twisted. A clueless monk is fake God, But it is interesting that Obley was there to witness their story. Did he empathize with Alois, or did he feel insulted by this bastardization of his story? I know the feeling of being forced to watch someone desecrate your tragedy very well. I wouldn't blame him for holding ill will towards Alois, although I suppose he did end up cooperating as he promised. Yes, it's similar to... I knew it. It's coming from here. I said I grabbed the egg and proceeded to examine it. My mind still reeling from watching the records, but my body sprang to action. I failed to notice anything unusual, so I started browsing through its menus instead. You are not broken, are you? Well, that's a sound I often hear as a record finishes playing. Very departed statement. I'm about to roll my eyes, but I noticed something unusual as I scroll up the backlog. There are entries for things that I didn't say, think, or experience through any of the records. I blink and furrow my brows as the backlog scrolls down on its own record before displaying a new message. Well, look who finally rises up. Are you slow in the head, bud? Cheeky long enough. But I have time to wonder if I'm delirious. The machine hurls further insults at me. You hit your head? Don't you remember your good old pal Pyre? Reading that name is enough to put a grimace on my face. It hasn't appeared in any record so far, and yet elicits such a reaction. My instincts warn me not to interact with this thing, but I will hold off judgment for the time being. You seem confused, Pyro starts again. I follow you here, remember? But you set the door in my face, so I'm reaching out through any other means I have. I mean, you are that thing that was chasing me. Oh yes. What fun would we would be having if I had gotten my claws to you? Is watching all these records not dull to you? Come on and play already. No, thank you. Your entries about Aloy's story led me to believe you were looking for some discussion, not to mention you act as if you know me. But if you don't lay it off with the threats and insults, I'll just close the backlog and go back to ignoring you. You can't ignore me forever. You do know you will need to get out of here once you run out of records here, yes? Then after this set of records, I'll be made go through more of them. And that's all I'm telling you. Although who knows, if you keep me around, I might step up and give you more valuable information, I'll look around me, just in case I catch a glimpse of this pirate person hiding somewhere in this Red Sea, but to no avail. I can only assume you are not an AI, or that at least they possess a body, judging from our previous encounter. But they are not in here or in any of the nearby record storage rooms. Who are you? Why are you chasing me? You think I'm going to tell you that just because you asked, dumbass? Well, it was worth a try. Anyway, Pyro proceeds, you mentioned something about discussing Aloys, huh? Well then, what are your ideas? It's not fair if I do all the talking, no? I'm still wary of his presence, but I consider getting them to have a normal conversation a small victory. There's no doubt that they are malicious and that they don't intend to give up information. I might glance something about their motives in my situation from talking to them. I also found when I see that the damn record this thought as Pyro's reading the backlog. If I can't hide anything, that's all the more reason to exchange ideas, I suppose. I can't think of any reason to go through these records other than helping me recover my memories. So I've been seeing them through that lens. And what have you found out? After these last two groups of records, I realize how the stories so far follow the same beats, so to speak. Oba and Nerus' story is very simple when you break it down to its fundamentals. Two people meet, they bring change to each other's world. They wish to stay this way, but this is impeded by a third factor. In the end, they become unable to meet for a long time. Initially, I compared Alicia and Nerus, but now I realize that was a mistake. Her father, Well, is more akin to Nerus when I consider his story with Body, even if their relationship wasn't a romantic one, down to the point Well vanished so Body was unable to meet him again. Naga and Aloys, as Pyro pointed out, are now in a similar conundrum. Of course, these comparisons aren't perfect, but they share a common thread nonetheless. If these records are related to my memories, I likely went through a similar situation. I'm either waiting for someone to return to me, or I'm trying to get back to someone. However, this does raise a new question. As if anticipating it, Pyro writes first. That's a nice endless tale you came up with, smarty pants, but slow down with the assumptions. If you are being shown these records to restore your memories, then why wouldn't they just show you your own records? Instead, you've seen the perspective of, wait, 5 people now? It doesn't make sense, doesn't it? I fall silent. I'm hesitant to follow this line of reason to its end, but I have to do it. I can't leave any possibility unexplored. I thought about that. I can think of 2 explanations. Oh, what could that be? I get the impression Pyro knows where this is going. The first one is that I have already been shown my own records, but that it wasn't enough to restore my memory. The second one is that, well, my records are either inaccessible or they don't exist. Do you realize what it would mean to not have records? It's like you don't even exist. The carcass records everything, including our interactions right now. If there are no records about you, then you are a newborn. It's an unsettling possibility, so until proven otherwise, I choose to believe in the first explanation. Besides, since you seem to know me, now I have a good reason to think I didn't come into existence a short time ago. Well, are you sure? I might be prejudiced against your kind, you know. Roll my eyes and let go of the egg. Productive as that conversation might have been, power is exhausting. I will continue watching the records and talk to them later if I feel inclined. An endless tale, huh? Okay, so a new record popped up, and it's obvious what's going on here. Here's Elisa and Bitey and Bernardo. So, looks like Bernardo took up the offer after a while, since he is there with the two of them. Okay, so these lines here, these colored lines, all of them meet here with Elisa and Bitey and the Bernardo. So could perhaps all these stories will connect to one? Could all the people seen here might end up being this story here, maybe? Now there's a blue color here, but there's a new color over here. It's a yellow color or golden color, whatever. So this would have something to do with Aloys. This would have something to do with Aloys and Nock or Obli. Well, something Aloys. This is like the main one here. You can see these two stories were about Aloys in the blue. The red here was about Elisa and her diaries, and the green here were Bitey and Elisa, and all these stories are combined into this part here. So once we hear this story, Aloy's story will branch off again, but I guess something new is going to happen with this yellow part right here. And I think eventually this, towards the top here, which I guess might be the conclusion of the story, this entire story. You know, all the stories into one, there might be some conclusion with Aloys and this other story here coming together. Anyway, I'll go ahead and play this new record. Initializing playback. Ten days left. Would that be all for today? Lisa grunted as he stood up, dusted off her clothes. It did little to shake off the grass and dirt sticking to the white fabric. She grabbed the large bag she had been tossing weeds into and tied it close. The nun that she was helping was almost finished with her side of the garden. Can you help me bring over some stuff from the storehouse before you go home, Elisa? Can you do it yourself? Fine. Martha was a tall and robust woman, much stronger than her wrinkly skin and gray hairs would cause one to believe. Still, it didn't sit well with Elisa to let her work alone. She was at that age where she would need immediate attention and she suffered a work accident to prevent permanent injuries at least. So having mastered healing magic, Elisa felt responsible to help her with manual labor. Are you sure you don't want me to push that? But Martha was stubborn. She insisted on transporting the push cart with the fertilizer. leaving Elisa with a much lighter box with some gardening tools. Don't you worry. So, any news from the bosses? Nothing significant. They still can't agree on who the actual boss is anyway. Elisa hadn't mentioned being in Smith's church when the murders took place. Body had decided that they make an exception and not tell anyone about the case. The news of the abbot's death quickly reached Earth's church, and from there word spread to town. But for such a shocking event, it hadn't affected Elisa's life much. The abbots had been acting on behalf of the deity's wishes. Even with them gone, the will of the seven remained to guide the churches, although not without turmoil, according to Martha. She hadn't given her any details, but there was some sort of dispute ongoing among the church's upper echelon. Elisa suspected that they were accusing each other of being complicit in the murders. Maybe that chaos was Aloysius' aim. She often thought back to the werewolf, but still didn't feel any closer to grasping his intentions. Perhaps he was overthinking things, taking his parting words too seriously. But she wanted to believe there was meaning to his words, as long a chance it would lead her to well existing. She wanted to believe. Not to mention that they still could not explain that shape-shifting descendant. There still was more to the story than they knew. Geez, slow down a little. I guess I was worrying over nothing. Worrying? Why? Never mind. Elisa placed the toolbox down once they returned to the plot of land. She wiped the sweat off her forehead and placed her hands on her waist as she caught her breath. Martha cackled. I should be the one worried about you. Do you ever work out, Elisa? No follower of Earth should tire so easily. I have tried, but I never yielded good results. Do you sleep well? Eat well? Yes, of course. Elisa's appetite wasn't as big as Body's, but surely her portions weren't that small, right? Are you going to keep working? I'll let the boys take over. I think I earned a nap. Talking about food, you should visit the mall, Elisa. Want me to cook something? Not at all. Pedro said he'd make some ice, so we'll be making ice cream. You should come get some. A small smile appeared on the young woman's face. I might just. Bring that handsome bird with you. It's just a shame he was absent today. Either because he wanted to keep himself busy or to get closer to Elisa, Bernardo had begun accompanying the hybrid to the church. However, that day he had made plans with Body. I'm sorry, Martha, but your odds of victory are 0. I guess they already came back home. Body and Bernardo's bickering welcomed Elisa home. They were in the middle of a game of Truco, which Bernardo had stopped to accuse Body of cheating. Elisa walked in just in time to witness the bearded vulture petting Body to his chair with one leg while he inspected his sleeves. The crocodile laughed awkwardly, his eyes dancing between Bernardo's face and the claws digging into his pants. Bernardo's fingers intertwined with Body's, holding them in place as he slipped his hand under his sleeve, caressing the way down his scaly forearm. Elisa grimaced. Suddenly, just as Body's eyes met Elisa's, Bernardo raised an eyebrow and then frowned. Hey, what do we have here? When do you hide this many cards up here? The bearded vulture asked, bringing his face close enough to the crocodile's to feel his breath hitting his beak. Only then he noticed Body's eyes gesturing Elisa's way. Oh, welcome home, Lisa. He let go of Body, hiding his hands behind his back and stepping away as he smiled warmly. The poor detective looked like he needed a while to catch his breath. Hello, I hope I didn't interrupt you or anything. Not at all, Martha. Yes. How was she? She's alright. I swear Earth must have blessed her with longevity. She just doesn't stop. That's good. Did you buy the groceries? Yes, we already put them in the cabinet. Okay, by the way, have you ever tried ice cream? No, what is that? Me neither. It's like an ice cold cream that's made by crushing ice and mixing it with some other stuff to add flavor. Martha said they'll be selling some at the church tomorrow. I think we should stop by Silice's. Excellent idea. It's been a long while since I visited the church too. Alright, well, I'll take a shower before cooking. Although Bernardo had planned to look for a job once he arrived in the city, Buddy had insisted that they deserve a break after that latest case and that they could live off Maggie's payment for a while. Elisa had returned to her routine to reacclimate to her home. Between her trip and the case, she had been away for a while. Even the nightmares had stopped after they left the island as if they stayed behind. Now Lisa didn't dream altogether. The nuns had prepared arrays of tables in the church's largest yard, as well as in the balcony on the second floor for those willing to pay for the view. When Lisa and company arrived, Martha received them and insisted they follow her to the balcony. We really were okay with eating in the yard, Martha. It's alright. Take it as little thanks for always helping us out. Now, pick a table. I'll bring you your ice cream soon. I must say, the people in this church are very nice. Bernardo commented after they took their seats. They are most of the time. Or maybe they are nice because I'm around. I spent most of my time in Monterey with the peasants. I didn't visit the church much. But, and you might have noticed this, the monks there mostly keep to themselves. They avoid outsiders. It would be unfitting for a follower of her to treat their patients coldly, no? Which I guess makes me a bad follower. Bernardo laughed and nodded. Very true. Is it often that they become violent? Oh no, goodness, I'm sorry, I forgot about that unpleasant encounter before you left the island. The culture around the Abbey is one of very deep devotion. This has made them superstitious, and they often see the influence of the several where there isn't any. It's very different from here, I feel. Indeed, they were in an altered state with all those mysterious murders in the Abbey, that was all. They were good people, just different. Buddy was staring at the yard below them, as well as the city stretching almost as far as he could see. Lisa wanted to ask him what was in his mind. But sometimes the words wouldn't come out. Be it out of a lack of drive or interest, she would turn her eyes away and keep the question to herself. Bernardo was never that timid. Are you thinking about something, Buddy? The crocodile checked the nun wasn't back yet before placing both hands on the table and leaning closer to the other two. I'm thinking about the money from the Abbey case. What about it? The crocodile leaned on the chair's recline. I can't remember the last time I traveled for pleasure. And Lisa, well, you've only ever traveled for business, right? I'm thinking of making a trip, but I won't know where. I see. Did you go on vacations often? Nah, that's not it. Buddy crossed his arms. Before settling down, I used to travel with a buddy of mine. That's how we started our business, actually. We'd wander around, and every once in a while we'd stumble upon a case and help solve it. How peculiar. Yes, it was an adventure. So, you wanted to go on vacation? Lisa tried to rein the conversation back to the topic that interested her, but just as she did, Martha returned with a tray with 3 cups filled to the brim with ice cream. Here you go. Make sure you don't eat it too fast. This is a lot more elaborate than what you guys usually do, right? Parents will read about this style of ice cream in a book about the old world and insisted he wanted to make some. It's called a milkshake. Might as well enjoy myself for now. I don't want to ruin the mood. Lisa stared quietly at Buddy and Bernardo as he enjoyed the milkshake. Something about a crocodile smile struck her as strange. She had been making that face since Bernardo moved in with him. She didn't understand it. Buddy had been so skeptical about Bernardo when they first met, but at some point his opinion made a 180-degree turn. Still, he was happy for him. But she couldn't help but be concerned about if Bernardo felt the same way. It was difficult to read him. Buddy didn't seem concerned, so perhaps he shouldn't be. What about you, Elisa? Sorry, I was spacing out. What? Do you play sports? We were talking about the job of fitness came up as a tangential topic. Elisa has never liked sports. Yes, I'll tell easily. What about you? I might not look like it, but I used to practice boxing back in school. In school? Yes, I took part in tournaments. I competed against kids from other schools. Oh, you are blessed, so I guess you went to one of those fancy institutions. Maybe Buddy relates to that. She turned to the crocodile who shrugged. I used to take taekwondo lessons. Everyone in the family needed to learn personal defense. What's taekwondo? A form of old war martial arts here. Elisa raised an eyebrow and continued slurping her milkshake. Come to think of it, these two weren't so different. Elisa's first impression of Bernardo was that he was very loyal to his duty, and while that still held true, now she saw him in a different light. He wasn't loyal to his department or his boss, but to his own definition of justice. Buddy had a similar sense of self-determination. Or did he? This thought didn't cross Elisa's mind, but there was another possibility. Buddy lacked a drive of his own. Corral and Bernardo drew him in because they were the ones with a strong will. They gave him direction. Once Will parted ways with him, Buddy became stagnant. Unhappy with his detective life, but unable to change it. Bernardo followed a strong set of values that became clear during their stay at the Abbey, and Buddy must have started finding his presence comforting. What's on your mind, Elisa? It's about those vacations you're missing. The crocodile blinked and put his empty glass aside. I have a suggestion, but I suppose I could go along instead. It doesn't have to be your vacation. The crocodile adopted a lower tone. Bernardo leaned back, listening in silence. It's about Aloys. I know it's a long shot, but I want to go to Plato. Are you sure? For one, how could Aloys possibly know about Will? Well, he shouldn't have known his name either, but he did. I'm positive I never spoke about Will to him. And how did he know we were related? It's one thing to know Will, but to recognize me. Buddy still off into the city with a slight frown. I can't deny that. Still, this gives me a bad feeling. It could be a trap, but Aloys is locked up now, so I doubt it. If he has other people waiting for me there, we all just need to lie low. I don't think he does. And there's more reason to go there. In the worst case scenario, Aloys was messing with me and I'll waste some time. If you go, we'll go with you. At least I found. Fine by me, but I'll look for him alone, alright? This will be a vacation for you. Easier said than done. Please, Buddy. Bernardo cleared his throat. Excuse me, would you prefer if I leave for a moment? Just for a bit. The bearded vulture nodded and walked back into the building. Elisa raised Buddy, her features more relaxed now, although her voice still betrayed some tension. I can take your time for you to help me, Buddy. The crocodile raised an eyebrow. Why is that? You like Bernardo, right? No response. It is really obvious, and that's why I'm asking you to not get involved. I want to give you space. You deserve it. I don't want you to have to worry about me anymore. Buddy opened his mouth as if he was about to shout at her, but stopped at the last second. He looked away with melancholic eyes. Barney, this is still a bad idea. Do you really think Aloys laid a trap for us there? Of course not. Then, a sight scared the crocodile's nose. He looked much smaller than usual, but a warning had replaced the sadness in his eyes. At least, how much do you know about Well? Not that much. I only remember his face, I guess. I and David both took after Mom, mostly, so he was the only one that looked well like a dog. Has your mother or anyone else told you anything about him? I only know what you told me. Mom didn't talk about him much after he vanished. Anyway, why are you asking this now? Alright. The crocodile's tail dragged on the floor as he leaned closer to Elisa. We'll go there if Bernardo agreed to go on vacation with me. You can go investigate alone in the meantime. But if I notice something's off, we're getting out of the city immediately, understand? I'm not getting a better deal, am I? This is final. No idea. They called Bernardo back shortly after. When asked, he said he'd be delighted to visit Plato. Wildlife and playback. I've been wondering for some time now, what is that thing that appears when I'm watching Elisa? I say as I glance at the Time Eggs screen. What are you talking about? You see it too, right? The message displaying the date and the countdown. What do you think about this? I met with silence, so I turned back to the holographic screen and scrolled to the top of the timeline. I have some theories, but none of them are perfect. I proceed. We are already past the Abbey murder case, so I figure we'll reach the date that is being counted down to, August 31st, in one of these next few records. What would happen then? From Elisa's point of view, it would make sense if this was counting down to her meeting with her father. Another option is that it's counting down to Well enacted a plan to free Samel. I'm leaning towards the second option. As we know, Well will make a move at the end of August. But then, why are we seeing the countdown happen from Elisa's perspective? She knows nothing about the gatekeepers or her plan, or their plan. That's why I came up with the first possibility, but even now I run into a different problem. How will Elisa know she will meet with Well at this time? Maybe it's not a countdown, but a time limit, since the lawyers only told her that her family would remain in Plato until then. But that doesn't fit either, because the countdown started before she even set foot in Rantaregi. I'm surprised this is giving you so much trouble. I finally hear that sound, like chirping wood. Blindness was the last thing I expected from you. Are you saying I overlooked something? Yes, but come to think of it, I still have seen this coming. It makes sense you wouldn't notice the truth. Why? Because you are you. I hear a mocking cackle somewhere in the back of my mind. I turn away from the time egg and attempt to collect my thoughts, but nothing makes sense in trying to decipher what Pyre was implying only adds to the chaos. The shapes, lines, numbers, and letters are now intermingled. So I mechanically select the next record. Okay, so these two records popped up. I guess since this record has a blue line going through it, I assume this will concern Aloys. And this has a yellow line, so this might be a different story, I guess. Again, maybe it could be this Elisa embodied here. Or maybe Obly. Maybe it goes back to Obly, I don't know, but it's kind of like a new color here, so I don't know what this record would be. This has a gray color. This is about Obley, Nerus. Anyway, so next time we'll play these two records. So before I talk about the part with Elisa, as well as the part with this person in the with the time egg and is trying to figure out where he's at. About Aloy's, it looks like Nock is might try to figure out a way of freeing what's the name of Samel, the god Samel, without having to destroy Earth in Aloy's with it. Because Aloy's did bring up the fact that Nock could possibly forget about him, lose his memory of him eventually after he succeeds in destroying the Earth. And Nock said that he would still remember him and that maybe he could carry maybe he could somehow carry Aloy's with him into the void, I believe. Maybe that's what he said, or maybe somehow like a different life, I guess. Anyway, so we got to see Obley more, and I guess Obley didn't like Nock potentially deviating from the plan, but he didn't stop him. He decided not to stop Nock. So we learned that Aloys is part of a family that controlled and ran the fire church, the Church of Fire, and his family, his relative, was an abbot, and then people came to their house and burned the house down, and many of his family members were killed, but a brother of his, who was a baby at the time, he was adopted by somebody who discovered them when the house was on fire. And while the baby was adopted by this woman, the woman put Aloys into an but basically the woman decided not to adopt Aloys, and so he was taken to the place where he had to grow up. I forgot what it's called. I don't know. My memory's not working today. My brain's not working. Anyway, foster home. He was put in a foster home because he can't. I mean, just one child's big enough to take care of, but two would be too great for her. And even Aloys has acknowledged that. It didn't blame her for it. So, ever since he learned about his family being killed, he wanted revenge on the Abbots, or other people maybe associated with the Abbots, but he wanted to kill some of the Abbots of the other churches as revenge for his family being killed. So he's going about this plan to kill the Abbots. So this story certainly connects to chapter 1 as to Aloy's reasoning for wanting to do this, and how Aloy became involved with this whole thing here. Now, this person who has a time bag and still wondering how to get out of it, I have a feeling he might be Nerus himself. I might be wrong, probably wrong, but I just can't help but feel that maybe this person is Nerus, and he's trapped down there, and he just don't know who he is or who Obley is or anybody else for that matter. He just don't know that he's actually Nerus, and he's trapped down there. Again, I may be wrong. Anyway, so I think the countdown that we saw throughout chapter 1 is the countdown to the plan being put into action. So Aloy's talked about Elisa's father, I believe, being in this town called Plata, and maybe don't know what I forgot why he's in the town, but Aloy's mentioned about. Well, Aloy's must have mentioned. I don't know. I guess Aloy's or Doc might have told Aloy's about this rogue guy who was Elisa's father, and don't know how he knew that that well was Elisa's father. Maybe we'll figure it out eventually, but I have no idea how he was able to know that. But so with the part with Elisa and Bidey and Bernardo, both Bidey and Bernardo, they're getting closer even more after being kind of cold and hostile. Well, maybe not hostile, but cold and suspicious of Bernardo in chapter 1. He's grown very close to him now. And at least mentioned that Bidey did a 180 on Bernardo. So I'm happy that the two of them are getting along. You know, and Bidey even offered him a job before they left the island. So I guess Bidey just had a change of heart towards Bernardo because he was a man. He was very duty bound. He was very much into carrying out justice. I guess that's what Aloy. So Noct's relationship with Aloy has gotten stronger to the point that he created some kind of emblem that looks like a wolf, and he gave it to Aloy to communicate with him while Aloy is on the island of Monterey. Yeah, because he can't be there with Noct no more. So while he's on the island of Monterey, come up with a plan to kill the abbots, he uses this carved artifact that the Noct shaped like a wolf, because he's a werewolf, or about to be a werewolf, I think. But anyway, he's carved it like a werewolf for Aloy, so that way he can stay in contact with him. So that was nice. Yeah. Alright, so we're going to play the next two records, and these will be the final records for now, at least, because once we play these two records, there won't be anything else afterwards. So this will be like one more video, and then that will be it for Nerus for a while. because the creator is working on a game called Devil's Gambit, which is a game that I play here on this channel. So you want to look at Devil's Gambit, you can check those videos out. So the creator is working on Devil's Gambit, so it will be a while until it comes back to Nerus. At this point, it will probably be till maybe next year, maybe. I have no idea, but we're working on Devil's Gambit. It will probably be a while, a really long while until he comes back to Nerus, but hopefully it won't be too long a wait, because I'm very eager to see how this story develops and how it eventually ends, and how all these characters from these different stories and time periods connect, because I believe all of them are going to meet. So thank you all very much for watching. Goodbye.